It is a beautiful day. It is a long weekend. The sun is out. And I even saw on the way here the neighbor who has two minions, those little characters, on their front yard, and one had a Flames hat on and the other had an Oilers hat on. So there you go. Life's good. All inclusive church here, no matter what team you're on, right? My name's Reverend Tress Phillips. It's May the 22nd, and it is a beautiful, beautiful day. And I want to thank you, everyone here, everyone there, for joining the Red Deer Center for Spiritual Living. Now, we have children here, and I would like to invite, if you wish, the children and Mama to come up, Mama Lou, because I have a word. This is our future generation right here. Our teachers, our prime ministers. Girls can be prime ministers. Okay, that sounds good. Maybe it'll be 3 people at the same time. Anyway, the word is an important word, and I think you will be able to tell me a bit about it. Peacefulness. If you're ready, you can let me know. Peacefulness.
Peacefulness is happy, peacefulness.
Peacefulness is happiness. That's right. Anyone else?
No fighting.
Well, that's a good answer. Any big people over there? Well, you're both growing up, so being calm. Well, thank you. So I think you're going to have fun today. And what we have for our affirmation is I find my inner peace and let it carry me gently through the day. So I find my inner peace and let it carry me gently through the day. And I think you're going to gently go and have a heck of a lot of fun at Fun Day School, right? Thank you. And now if you would like to repeat with me our opening affirmation, which is inside of our bulletin. I plant new seeds in my garden of life. The seeds are those of loving relationships, radiant health, prosperity, and creativity. I dig out the weeds of anxiety, limitation, and fear so that good can grow and bear fruit. Thoughts are the seeds, and I am the thinker. I do the planting, and I reap the harvest. I tend my garden with wisdom, and so it is. And now, before I introduce our speaker, I would like our musicians to play, please.
Okay, the first song we're going to do is Happy Days Are Here Again, and it's on page 26. You can stand and sing along if you like. The books are just at the end of the row there. You don't have one? Days are here again, the skies above are clear again. Let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. All together shout it now. There's no one who can doubt it now. So let's tell the world about it now. Happy days are here again. Your cares and troubles are gone. There'll be no more from now on. Happy days are here again. The skies above sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again.
And for our next one, we're going to do Let It Be by the Beatles. It was written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. It's on page 58.
When I find myself in times of trouble, truth reveals itself to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in the hour of darkness, truth reveals itself to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. And when the broken hearted, there is still a chance that they will see, there will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music, truth reveals itself to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Thank you, and could we please have applause for our musicians? And now we get to hear our speaker. It's Reverend Judy Andersen, and it's our emotions, ruler, servant, or coach. Reverend Judy.
I assume I'm live. I am. So let's begin with an opening spiritual mind treatment. If you will just relax and know with me that this day is a good day, for the life of God flows through it. That each one of us is a good being because the being of God flows through us. That truly all is well in our world because God is at the center of it all. In spite of outward appearances, there is still that secret bright flame that is God within every being, even with those that maybe we disapprove of. And our job is not to criticize or revile. Our job is to see the good and stand for the good and help to fan that ember into a flame in every being that we meet and within ourselves. And I know right here and right now that yes, it can be done. And I declare that I stand for good, for myself, for every being, for every life, for every creature, for every blade of grass and every tree. Good and only good prevails here, and so it is. So, thank you for being here. And thank you for those who are tuning in and seeing us on YouTube or on Facebook. And our subject today was from our home office was supposed to be about anger. But you know what? I choose not to talk about anger. So I'm talking about emotions generally. And this morning, in the shower, as often happens, my whole talk changed its nature, so whatever, to really, it's all consciousness. And I've got a little example I want to share with you. With a simple glass of water, this stands for an unpolluted consciousness that knows good and only good, that has never been harmed, never been hurt, always known only good. And these little bits of cookie, it's a waste of a cookie, mind you, but there was a belief when we came into the world that we would have hardships and pain. There was another belief that maybe starting off to school we weren't smart enough, or we didn't have the right things to wear, or that our hair wasn't very nice, that we were too short, too tall, too fat, too thin, that our parents weren't good enough, that what we knew wasn't enough. Do you see what's happening to my nice, clean glass of water? To my consciousness? And then teenage years and the opinions of our peers. We won't include her. She's a blah, blah, blah. He's a wimp. We won't let him into our club. That person thinks they know it all. We don't like them. You know what? I'm such and such religion, and that's the only one that's true, and therefore everybody else is wrong. Judgment. Can't really call raising sins, but you see what is happening? I'm told, or I've read somewhere, that the average 4-year-old gets about 500 negative messages a day. Can you imagine what's happening to that poor little consciousness? I've done this before using an eyedropper and food coloring, but this will work. Here is one mess of a consciousness. And I'll put it down now because it served its purpose. So, our emotions are a result of what's in our consciousness. And I want to tell you my own story, which I'm a little bit ashamed of, but I'll share it with you anyway. During a middle part of my life, I was running for the board of an organization, and I lost. I wasn't elected to that position, to that board. And while I was driving off after I learned that, I was on my way to a lunch meeting with someone, but I started just bawling. I had to pull over to the side of the road and just cry. You know what? It had nothing to do with that election. It had to do with my consciousness. It brought out an emotion in me, and the emotion was simply a symbol of what was in that grimy consciousness. It brought back memories, reminders, every feeling I'd ever had when I felt I was excluded from something, that I was not included, that I wasn't good enough to be part of this or part of that. So the emotion is just a mirror of some part of our consciousness. Does it make sense? And mine, hey, I have to admit it, that the fear of not being included was a big deal for me through a lot of my life, whether it was real or not, or just just something going on in my head. That's kind of irrelevant. In fact, when I was doing practitioner training, part of what we were required to do was to pay for a half hour of counseling, and Reverend Doug was pretty good at peeling off layers, and we came up with this bit about being included. So he gave me an affirmation to do that I was supposed to do 20 times in the morning and 20 times at night. I am always included because I include myself. Well, I did work on that quite a bit, not 40 times a day, by the way, but it gives you an idea. So what's going on in your consciousness? Where are your emotions? If about anger just didn't ring a bell with me, but there was some information. I think in my lifetime there has been maybe 2 times I was really angry. And I would have liked to have had some of the guidance at that time. I just let it burn, which wasn't healthy. Can give a person an ulcer. But if one can imagine a raging sea with waves that are beating against the shore, beating against the rocks, beating against anything that comes in contact with them, and then if you can see that further out, some other part of that sea, there is perfect calm and perfect peace, like the eye of the hurricane. If we can bring ourselves to, when we're in a violent emotion, if we can bring ourselves to that center of the storm where there is perfect peace, and that is about all I'm going to say about anger, is that we can feel it, we can recognize it, and we can take ourselves to a place of peace. And through meditation, each one of you in your own soul will come up with what works for you. But the thing is, are you going to let the emotion rule you? Are you going to let anger determine your actions? Or are you going to clean your consciousness while you clean your teeth? This is what we're after. And if I was doing a full demonstration there with the food coloring, I would then have a little bottle of bleach, and I'd put in a drop of bleach for every affirmation, whatever, and we'd gradually get a clean goblet of water again. So this is what we need to do with our consciousness. If we find anger, repressed anger, if we find the negative feelings about ourselves that maybe we've carried through our life from the time we were toddlers, that nobody likes me, I'm not included anywhere. By the way, that doesn't bring up any emotion anymore. I dealt with that one. But if we've got issues like that, there's a few things we can do. And one of them is called prayer work or spiritual mind treatment work. And I've got a little bit here that I want to read you. And I believe this was from Ernest Holmes. You as a practitioner, and he says anybody who uses the principles of science of mind to heal themselves or another is a practitioner. Now, not a licensed practitioner as we know it, but still you're a practitioner if you use it for yourself or another. So if you can find it within yourself, even if you're not comfortable and you say to yourself, I don't know what to say, you don't need to know what to say. You simply have to know that within you there is something that is good enough for God to have created in its own image. That the universe, here, this is a message I resent the other day. Many of you will have seen it. The universe thought you were a good idea. So if you're good enough for the universe and you're good enough for God, who are you to say you're not good enough to live a life of happiness, of success, of joy, of love? It's a matter of cleaning up our consciousness, even if it's one thought at a time. So where are your judgments about yourself? Or where are you judging that others are judging you? That you think others are disliking you for something or not approving of you? What messages did you accept as truth about yourself when you were 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 70 or 80? What messages have you accepted? And how much cleaning have you done? Most of us, until we start really doing our spiritual work, haven't done a lot of cleaning. And if we want a consciousness of joy, anybody prefer that to despair and unhappiness? If we want a consciousness of joy, we've got to clean up our act. We've got to clean up our consciousness. Our emotions are just guideposts. They tell us a little bit about where we've been, but they're an effect. They're not a cause in themselves. My anger or my disappointment and my grief and my judgment of myself, all those things are mirroring my consciousness, are mirroring the clean and the dirty, the ugly and the beautiful. That's what our emotions are. They're guideposts. So they're not servants because, well, they serve us in a way, but not directly. They serve us because they tell us about something we need to look at. So if you came to me for spiritual mind treatment and we had a little talk about what was bothering you, I would be asking some questions. And if your answers were, well, I'm just feeling terrible all the time and I don't think I've had a happy minute in the last 10 years, then I'm going to be asking, well, what do you think is underneath that? Because that's what's I'm picturing. That's what we're seeing in the mirror of your consciousness, but what's underneath it? What is it that is causing that? Not emotions, lack of emotions, or negative emotions that have just like a cloud cover that never lifts. What's underneath it? And trying to arrive and help the client, the person asking for the treatment, helping them come up with their own answers, and then treating at what we call the level of cause, not at the level of effect. I'm not going to know that Marianne Blinks is happy and cheerful all the day long. I'm going to be treating that whatever is standing between Marianne and her greater good and her joy is recognized and dismissed and dissolved at the level of cause. It's that level of cause is so important. Because if I just treated that you're happy now and you're going to be happy, blah, blah, you might be happy for a short time, but that would be like a Band-Aid over a wound that needs disinfectant. You need to root out the level of cause for that condition or that feeling, that emotion. So consider it for yourselves, and also consider, we've got Lou Clark, who's with the children today. She's a practitioner intern, and she's done all the training to do wonderful treatment work. There's Reverend Truss and myself. Juliet, who's a licensed practitioner, and there's Gord Hemmelgarn. Probably couldn't arrange a ride to get to us today. But we all love to do spiritual mind treatment, and we have all done a lot of study to be able to clean up, maybe a little at a time, that murky consciousness, that mess of cookie in water. By the way, I have some of those cookies with me that I'll put out on the table. And well, they're not the best batch I've made, but they're oatmeal and raisin and coconut. There's something else, oatmeal, raisin, coconut. Lots of butter, of course, and sugar. But I've been making those lately as opposed to buying cookies. So we'll put out a few of those after the service, and they'll be much better than the one that's dissolved in consciousness. Now, let me see what I had planned to say. Well, emotions are in the world of effects, and we work at the level of cause. We've been there, we've done that. I've done that. Okay, children. Most of you have had children. How many have had children? And I have stepchildren who are in their 30s now, but a big deal. So if a child has a tantrum, or a crying fit, or they're hurt, or super unhappy about something, what do? You usually, I expect, try to change their attention to a toy or a treat or a happy thing that's coming up. You try to change where the focus of their attention is, right? Parents agree with me? So why can't we do that as adults for ourselves? The thing is to recognize that the emotion is there, but making a choice not to stay there. So if a cookie will divert my attention, and then maybe going to a movie or going for a walk or reading a good book, that will help take my attention to something different. It's a matter of not staying in a negative feeling and then doing our consciousness work as well, doing real work on it. And it is serious work. Another little trick of the trade is to stand for the good, stand for the truth, stand for mercy, for virtue, well, I'll quote the Bible, everything of good report, noble, true, virtuous, and of good report. And if we stand for those things, but don't take a stand against anything. As soon as you take a stand against something, you're giving your power to it. You're giving your attention to it. You're feeding it, even though you're against it. So don't nourish it. Nourish the opposite. Stand for the opposite of what you're unhappy about. Stand for truth in the presence of a lie. Stand for courage in the presence of fear. Stand for, you make it up, you get the picture, you know what to do. And about emotions, I'm going to read a little story that was part of Home Office suggestions for today. And this little story is by Alan Wallows, and it gives you the idea. Imagine walking along a sidewalk with your arms full of groceries, and someone roughly bumps into you, so you fall and your groceries are strewn all over the ground. As you rise up from the puddle of broken eggs and tomato juice, you get ready to shout out, "You idiot, what's wrong with you anyway? Are you blind?" But just before you catch your breath to speak, you see that the person who bumped into you actually is blind. He too is sprawled in the spilled groceries, and your anger vanishes in an instant, to be replaced by sympathetic concern. Are you hurt? Can I help you up? Our situation is like that. When we clearly realize that the source of disharmony and misery in the world is ignorance, we can open the door of wisdom and compassion. Now, it'd be great if we could be wise and compassionate when the person first bumped into us, but better late than never. To understand that when something happens through another person, that we need to stop so that we respond from our soul rather than from our immediate emotion. Responding from an angry reaction, that is reacting at the level of the cause. When we want to learn as spiritual beings to learn to respond from the level of our very being, not at the level of effect. So, here's something about our emotions. Take them out and look at them. When you're feeling an emotion, is it grief? Is it anger? Disappointment? Is it, well, they never paid any attention to me, and here it is Mother's Day, and those kids haven't called me, and they haven't shown up, and I, blah, 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 I'm feeling really neglected. And if we take a look at the emotions, and we take a look at what is behind them, all right, if it were me, and I am blessed, my stepsons did remember me, but if I was feeling not included, not important, not worth somebody coming to me or recognizing me, then I'm stuck in the dirty consciousness. So if we can get it that our emotions are just a mirror image of our consciousness, and that if it's emotions we don't like, we can do something about it. And you're probably going to ask how, and somewhere here there was an answer to that. Well, it might not sound very exciting, but become as self-aware as possible so that you recognize when you find yourself slipping slowly into anger, fear, or revenge. At those times, do something proactive to create change or gently remind yourself of your greater self. So yes, your emotions do not rule you unless you surrender to them. Your emotions can be guideposts. They're valuable signals of something that's going on in your consciousness. And if you want to clean it up, there are ways to do that through spiritual work, through meditation. All right, I'm in meditation and I've gotten myself in a pretty good state of meditation. And I say, Spirit, God, show me what this means. These feelings I've been having of not being good enough, of not being important enough, of not being included. Show me what they mean, what's underneath those things. And I probably am going to get an answer. If it's not in 2 minutes, it might be in 2 days. It might be in 2 hours. But something will flash into my mind. What is under that? Oh my, do you remember the time when you were only in grade 4 or something and nobody picked you for the baseball team? Well, that's a simple one. But it can be as simple as that if you will stop and listen. I doubt if any of you want to live on the rest of your lives in pain or discomfort or with a dirty consciousness if you can do something about it. And if you're not quite sure what to do, talk to us, talk to Tress or myself or Reverend Gail or Reverend Valentine or Juliet or Gord or Lou, and we'll do some work with you to help you discover what's underneath the feelings you're having. If you want to spread your wings, I would love to see all of us spreading our wings so we can soar instead of living in a hole. And I think, I'm going to leave it at that. I think you know enough to do some work for yourselves. Creating this, getting this message to resonate with myself did me some good. And I'm going to close with just a short affirmation. I clear my consciousness as regularly as I clean my teeth. If you want to repeat it with me, that's great. I clean my consciousness as regularly as I clean my teeth, and so it is. Thank you. And we come to the prosperity portion of our program, and our musicians will have something for us. But before they play, let's read our prosperity affirmation together. It is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom, and it is my place to rule that kingdom with wisdom, enjoying its abundance and sharing that good with all. There is no need to hold tightly to what I have, for my supply has no limit. I give freely and accept fully, and so it is. Thank you. What do you have for us?
We're going to do There Is Only Love, and if you'd like to sing along, this is by Michael Gott, and the second lyric is by Karen Drucker. If you want to sing along, it's on page 94. In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love, there is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
So let's read our closing affirmation together. Today, I live in the present moment. My total attention is given to each task and to every relationship. There is a joy and vitality in this, for I am not burdened by thoughts of yesterday or what comes next. Only this precious moment and all that it contains. God is good, life is good, and so am I, and so it is. Back to Edith.
Okay, if you want to stand, we're going to do I Love Myself. It's on page 33. This is by J. Michael Josephs.
Let's see.
Oh, page 33.
I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful, capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. I love you the way you are. There's nothing you need to do. When I feel the love inside myself, it's easy to love you. Behind your fears, your rage and tears, I see your shining star. And I love you just the way you are. I love the world the way it is, 'cause I can clearly see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. So till the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. I love myself the way I am, still I want to grow. But change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. I love myself just the way I am.
And the closing treatment. If you will just know with me once more the good of this day, the beauty and the love of the grace that surround us, that flows through. I need nothing greater than that. Love and grace and good surround me, flow through me. I open myself, I open my heart, I open my very soul to accept. And so it is.
And so it is. Yes, there is peace on earth. It's on page 114.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, and we all are we, as we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live